Hi, in this short video, we want to talk about the blindness of the nation of Israel. Why is it important? What does it mean? Why are they blinded? And what does this mean in context of Romans 10 verse 1, where it says that all of Israel shall be saved? Why is it important to understand the issue of the blindness of Israel? Well, in Romans 11 verse 25, Paul himself actually says that he desires us not to be ignorant of this mystery. The second part of verse 25 says that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. So this is something that the Lord really wants us to know, and even through the Apostle Paul, he made known his heart to us that we might understand this and even search out this very mystery of the nation of Israel. From Romans 11:25, we can see that this blindness that has happened to Israel is neither total nor final. When Paul says that blindness in part has happened to Israel, he means that the nation of Israel has been covered by a partial blindness. She's only partially blind. God in his sovereignty has always preserved a remnant by grace for himself throughout the ages. So even in the past 2,000 years, even though majority of the nation of Israel is blind, yet at the same time, there is always that small remnant who actually acknowledges and believes in Yeshua as their Messiah. The second part of this blindness that Paul talks about is, he alludes to actually, basically says that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles that has come in. So meaning that this blindness that is upon the nation of Israel right now is also not final, meaning that there will be an end date to that blindness when it will actually be lifted. And that condition for that blindness to come to an end for the nation of Israel is that the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. So knowing all this, perhaps we want to take a step back and ask the question, why? Why is Israel partially and temporarily blinded right now? There are two reasons. One is because of the nation of Israel herself, and the second is also because of God's sovereignty. For the nation of Israel, her blindness is really due to the hardness of her own heart, such that when Jesus came as the Messiah, the leaders, the Pharisees, many of the elders in the nation of Israel actually rejected Jesus and said that he was not their Messiah. So they were really blind to him as the very prophesied one, as the chosen and anointed one. The second reason for Israel's blindness is that this is all part of God's sovereign plan. In fact, in Romans 11 verse 8, it says that God has given them a spirit of stupor, eyes that they should not see and ears that they should not hear to this very day. And the reality is that it's partly because of their own rebellion that the Lord has also judged them with this blindness, but at the same time, it's also part of his overall plan to also include the Gentiles in his salvation plan. Because if not for this partial blindness of the nation of Israel, the gospel would have not come to the Gentiles. So Apostle Paul himself actually realized this. In Romans 11, if you read it, you see that, he says that in verse 32, God has committed them, meaning the Jewish people, all to disobedience that he might have mercy on all, meaning that the gospel will actually go to the Gentiles. So even in the grand salvation plan of the Lord, he has sovereignly and divinely orchestrated this partial and temporal blindness upon the nation of Israel. So finally, what does this mean in context of Romans 10 verse 1, where Paul says that all Israel shall be saved? Well, it means that there is coming a day in the near future actually where all of Israel will be saved, where the blindness of that's upon her right now will be lifted sovereignly, even by the very hand of God. In fact, we have entered into that time when the Lord is progressively removing this blindness, even as the Gentile church is progressively reaching our very fullness. And even in this decade, there have been many prophetic words saying that the Lord is going to pour out unprecedentedly his very Holy Spirit on the nation of Israel. The very spirit of grace and supplication in Zechariah 12:10, that Israel would be able to see who her Messiah truly is and call upon his name and be saved. So truly we are living even in this very fulfillment, the very actualization of God's promise to his nation. And these are really very exciting times to be alive in. So as Gentile believers, one of the things that we can pray even for the nation of Israel is that the Lord would hasten this very work of removing that blindness and giving her that eyes to see, ears to hear, that many would even turn and call upon Jesus as their Messiah.